Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 28 of the Industry Insider. Set to go here. My name's Rob Howden. My guest today, Andy Seesemann from FTK Promotions, of course, the promoter of the Challenge of the Americas, the promoter of the California Rock Championship. Andy's been around a long time. He also operates FTK, Full Throttle Karting, in Southern California. We'll talk about that when we cap things off later in the day. But again, this is an Industry Insider. We're into December now. And, of course, everybody's starting to think about 2020, and that's what it's all about because, first and foremost, we're going to talk Challenge of the Americas. We'll start by reviewing the 2019 season, talk about how Andy's program, FTK Promotions, has grown. Obviously, we're going to talk about how he made the move to the Rock a couple of years ago and the moves he's made over the last couple of years to solidify the Rock program in California. Andy, thank you for joining me, buddy. I appreciate it. We're about a week off of Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good time with the family.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Rob. Kathy and I and Grace and my mom went up to Montana State to visit Trevor up in the snowy north, and we celebrated Thanksgiving up there. So we're back at it here at FTK.
That's what it's like, right? It's about 4 days. I think I took 4 days off. I made sure Dave Cole took 4 days off after Super Nationals. And, of course, he went to the Rock the Rio event as well. Kind of sit down, reset, decompress a little bit, and then you got to go right back at it because, you know, we're just over, 6 weeks away, maybe 7 weeks away for you, starting with the Challenge of the Americas, but a lot of good stuff coming. Are you ready for the 2020 season already? It's hard to believe it's December already.
No, it's crazy. I mean, you're right. Yeah. It's like 4 days. It was really about 3 days, to be fair. 3 or 4 days. I mean, I was in my shop Saturday the 23rd. We drove up to Montana. I drove by you. I messaged you as I drove by the Rio on Sunday. On Sunday the 24th, I waved. I didn't get any waves back. It kind of bums me out, but whatever. I drove all day Sunday, was up in Montana Monday through Thursday, and then drove all day back home on Friday. So, yeah, and then I was back in my shop on Saturday again. So it was a whirlwind, but that's the business we choose. That's the business we're in, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And now it's 2020.
Yeah, it feels like I could just blink my eyes, and we were at Sonoma for the finale of the Challenge of the Americas last year. Of course, I got a chance to drive one of your Burrells with that VLR Rock 100 package, which was an absolute blast. So let's start that. Before we jump into 2020 and you talk about what the plans are for the Challenge of the Americas and for the California Rock Championship, let's look back a little bit at 2019. It was your 13th season, I think last year, or was that last year your 12th season?
12. We're going into 13 now.
Going into 13, started back in 2008. Obviously, 2 years ago for 2018, you guys moved from the Rotax program into the Rock Cup. Which I think was obviously a major move. You and I have discussed on podcasts and in person. Not so much it was a risk, but you were kind of resetting the bar with a program that was growing. But let's just say this, solid numbers in 2019, 20% overall growth from 2008 to 2019. And maybe even more importantly, 34% growth in your 7 core Rock Cup USA classes, Micro Mini, Junior, Senior, Master, Shifter, and Shifter Masters. The Shifter class, huge for you. But, you know, anytime we talk about and have for the last number of years when we're working with the Challenge of the Americas, you want that 10% growth, right? And you were 20 last year and 34 in the primary categories. I got to think that you would probably give last year a solid A minus in terms of numbers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when Garrett Potter and Rock Cup USA and I sat down and did this deal, 2.5 years ago now, we knew that year 3 was going to really where it was going to bear fruit, right? I mean, like anything, the first year was, wowing the other ship down, or at least keep it from sinking as the other program started to really fail. Year 2 was getting the ship pointed back in the same direction and kind of get it moving again. And then year 3, which is where we're going now, is really building steam and heading on the right path. And man, we were way ahead of where I thought we would be. I mean, I'm very fortunate and very surprised and very happy where it was last year and where it looks like it's going for next year and beyond.
Now, I think we're obviously I think this podcast coming out on Friday. When do we open registration for Challenge of the Americas anyways?
This weekend, Sean Buer, my super IT guy, is putting the final touches on everything. And, perhaps by by Pearl Harbor Day of all days, December 7th, we should have everything in place to be able to release. That's a solid, like we talked about. I think it's really 7 weeks in advance, so people will have 5 weeks in order to enter. So spend the Christmas money with me, get it in before we buy anything for the kids. Really, that's what we need to do.
This is it. Here's one thing though. Obviously, you haven't seen any entries yet. The pre-entries come, they start rolling in. We all know nowadays that people don't pre-enter as they used to. Ideally, they will start doing that again and want to get on board. But you're connected with teams. You're connected online, whether with racers, families, whatever it may be. Do you have a sense that are there some new teams coming in this year potentially that weren't there last year? Which of course will bring a number of guys coming in. Have you talked to people that are adding the program for 2020?
I think the biggest thing is teams have told me that they've had far more interest this year. Going into this year. When I say this year, I mean 2020. Teams that maybe had 4 or 5 are now looking at 8 or 10. Teams that had 8 or 10 are now looking at more. So that's the good thing is I'm not sure we're going to add a bunch of new teams. I mean, there'll be a new face or two. There always is, right? I'm always surprised. You're always surprised when we get there and all of a sudden there's somebody that we didn't think was going to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Funnily enough, I just talked to Joey Guillon this morning from Overdrive up in Calgary, and he's been a fixture at my programs now for 10 years. I mean, he used to come to my Gators races back in 05, 06. And Joey's kind of backed off the team thing, just come down and supported some engine customers and stuff. And this year, he just told me this morning, he has 4 or 5 drivers that he's going to farm out to one of our existing sponsors and teams, Ruthless. Ruthless, who had, I think, 6 or 7 last year, maybe at 12 with Joey's guys, so it's additions like that. It's incremental additions. As you know, you're talking about another year of maybe 10, 15, 20, 30% growth. It's going to be three more drivers in this tent and 2 more drivers in this tent and 5 more drivers in that tent. And all of a sudden there's, instead of 125, we're at 155,
And that's the key, right? You're at 130 drivers and you add 10%. That's only 13. That's 13 extra drivers puts you to 143. The next year you add another 14.3 or whatever it may be. And that's how you start getting up to 150, 160 with that little bit of growth. Now, let's not jump ahead. This is the 2019 review segment of this Industry Insider with Andy Seesemann. So one of the things I know that you did last year, it was a calculated move, just like moving to Rock 2 years ago. But I know that you answered the call of the industry. They were asking for a Rock Summer program. That was one of the things, right? Hey, listen, you're like, we'd love to have you come run the Challenge of the Americas. And of course, they come back with, hey, okay, I can do that. But if I'm buying engines, rental engines, or I've got customers buying engines, we need a place to race it over the summer. So you came up with the California Rock Championship. And that's, you obviously, Andy, started something, you had a little bit of kindling, lit the fire, and you're trying to fan it to make it work. And the first year's always going to be tough. Tell us a little bit about how the season went, because you started with 4 races. You ended up taking out 1 at Prairie City. You went down to 3 races. Overall, how do you feel the momentum changed throughout that season?
It started a little slower than I'd thought. I'd figure we'd had, we're probably 20%, 25% off of what I thought we were going to have. But, it's a risk. Like you said, it was a calculated risk, but it's the evolution of how things need to be. We need to build the program so we have folks racing during the summertime to support the challenge and support the program all year round, et cetera, right? I mean, there's certainly value in that. So, yeah, we started off pretty light. By the end, we had a good solid bunch. We had a great finale in September. We had a race at Buttonwillow, a race at Willow, and then we ended in September at Cal Speed, and that race was great. I think we had almost 80 entries, which was great. It was a good, fun event. Handed out some tickets to Rock the Rio, and for the most part, I mean, people had a great time. People that had never been exposed to our program, part of it, like is the challenge is a bigger event. It's a larger scope. It's a little more costly than other things. It's a bigger, like you said, a fly-in series or a traveling series. So. Yep. This gave a lot of local folks a chance to see what we do. It's my same staff. It's our same format. It's the personality of the event is the same. And I always talk about the personality of Challenge of the Americas. So obviously with the same folks and running it, et cetera, it's going to have a similar personality. So people got a chance to see that and enjoy it and realize, okay, maybe this is something I really want to do for next year. And that I've gotten some feedback from folks that tried Cal Speed and said, okay, I'm coming to Tucson. So that's definitely the big positive.
And that's what it is. Again, you're building blocks, right? You had your Challenge of the Americas. It was obviously a super strong program. Then the Rotax program faded off a little bit there. You made a calculated move to the Rock Cup Series. That's in 2 years has built growth. You make the move to bring more value to Rock engine owners in Southern California. They start coming out. That's going to feed off into the next one. And we'll, of course, talk about that later on in the podcast here when we preview 2020. But overall, how happy are you with the way 2019 went for your two programs?
Oh, I'm very happy. I mean, like I said, the challenge growth shattered my expectations, and while CRC was a little bit below in the beginning, if I put it all in one big pile, it was by far a positive year. I mean, it was huge.
Folks, this is the Industry Insider, episode number 28, December 4th, here on the EKN Radio Network. Our guest today, Andy Seesemann from FTK Promotions, the promoter of the Challenge of the Americas and the California Rock Championship. After this break, we're going to talk not so much about Andy's programs, but some of the other stuff he did throughout the 2019 season, primarily heading to Italy to the Rock Cup Super Final, and of course being front and center at the Rock the Rio event in Las Vegas at the end of October. Stay with us, folks. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Top quality material, all presented in fluorescent yellow. You've seen it, and now you need to choose the flow. Since 2005, J3 Competition has been capturing major victories and championships both on and off the track, redefining the industry with each move. The company took its unparalleled knowledge and rolled it into their own chassis line in 2015, the Comp Cart. The CIK FIA homologated brand has been winning races ever since. There are 3 Comp Cart models to choose from. The Covert 3.0 R19 is the latest design for tag and shifter competition. The Covert 4R serves several popular categories, including 100cc and Brakes 206 racing. The Ranger 28 model is designed for cadet racing and will be the official chassis of the Minimax division at the 2019 Rotax Challenge Grand Finals in Sarno, Italy. And lastly, new karters can get right into the Comp Cart product from the beginning, running the micro kart in the kid kart division. Visit j3competition.com for more on the fastest growing chassis line in the world. Do it now. Choose the flow. The 2019 season has been an exciting year for Rock Cup USA, and the schedule is set to close out its biggest event on the calendar, Rock the Rio. Rockers will converge on the Rio All Suites Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas to celebrate Halloween week, competing at this premier international event on October 28th to November 2nd, all around a challenging temporary circuit with the Las Vegas Strip in the background. Rock Cup USA programs are wrapping up their 2019 seasons across the country, including the Rock the Rockies in Colorado, Rock Sonoma, and California Rock Championships in California, and many other clubs across North America. Learn more about the Rock the Rio event and all things that are rock at rockcupusa.com. You've heard and read about us. We're the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. After putting all 8 of our X30 senior drivers in the main at last year's SCUSA Super Nationals, we're the tent you need to be under this November. We have just 4 spots available, so contact us today to lock in one of our final opportunities. We may be prepping for Las Vegas, but it's also time to talk about 2020. Joining the Rawlson Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Our industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and former Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. In 2020, we'll be racing in the SCUSA Winter Series, Pro Tour, and California Pro Kart Challenge, as well as the IKF Northwest region. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. We do have different levels of programs available for the ICAF Sprint Grand Nationals at Pat's Acres on the September 20, 21, 22 weekend. So if you want to get a head start on 2020, come up and join us and take your shot at winning a Duffy, one of the most prestigious trophies in the sport. We're the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, the only 24/7 karting radio station in the sport. My name's Rob Howden, the editor and publisher of ekartingnews.com. And joining me here today is Andy Seesemann from the Challenge of the Americas and the California Rock Championship. Andy, we talked about what you did in 2019 and how things grew for Challenge of the Americas, how you launched something brand new in the California Rock Championship. Let's talk about how you did other events, because one of the things you do as well as doing just the events itself, you have FTK, Full Throttle Karting, your own kart shop down in California, but you also make sure that you're at these major events, whether when you are a Rotax guy, you were at the major Rotax event, the grand final. As a primary Rock Cup guy here and promoter in North America, in primarily the United States, you're going to be at the Rock Cup Super Final. You're going to be at the Rock de Rio because you've got tickets in your programs. You're sending guys to these events. It's great for you to be there to support your customers, but also to make sure you gain knowledge on the program itself, whether it's how they run their races, maybe how you want to change some stuff back here, but also just to be with the entire Rock family.
No, absolutely. All the programs, around the world, we seem to have our nice, kind of year ender, our big final events, and Rock's no different. So for sure, I always make it a key point to go to the Rock Super Final in Lonato, Italy, and that's a great time. I mean, I did support our drivers. Not that I do much for support except high five and make them buy me a cocktail at night, but. We go and hang out and have some good fellowship and have a few meals and get to support them at which is one of the largest events in the world. So it's a great time, and it's good to be there.
Let's give me some of your insight and some of your thoughts on being at the event. I had a chance to announce it twice and thoroughly enjoyed myself. Of course, South Garda, one of the iconic facilities for karting around the world, not just in Italy. And it's a major event. They do a tremendous job putting on a show, putting on an event. The track itself, with its kind of a bunch of hairpins that it has and some of the quick corners, really lends itself to some aggressive racing. There's a bit of contact, and it's tough to make it to the finals on Saturday. Just overall, what were your thoughts on, number one, this year's event? And then let's segue to the performances of the American drivers, especially those that came through your series.
The thing I take away from the event is how some categories, you see the ebb and flow of the categories. I mean, it always amazes me to see. It is by far the biggest cadet class I've ever seen, right? I mean, 2 years ago, it was like 150. This year, I think it was on the 130s, but to have 130 something cadets, right? You're talking 100 kids that don't make the final. Only 20, right? 25% only make the final, right? So 3/4 of the field don't make the final. This year I know junior grew a little bit, senior grew a little bit, masters grew a little bit. The shifter program obviously grew a little bit. So while I think the cadet was down maybe 20 or 30 entries, everything else kind of picked up the slack, and it was still back up to 430 or whatever. And that's only in 7 classes. That's not 10 or 12 classes. That's 7 classes with 430 something entries. It's crazy.
Yeah, stacked, no doubt.
But I think I wouldn't say the advantage. I say OTK Rock has when they put that on an event is it's a home race for them, right? Some of the other programs they got to ship everything in a container halfway around the world or to another country where South Garda is 20 minutes from the Tony Kart factory, so all that stuff is there. It's there, very true. Right? I mean, so when OTK brings every semi hauler that they have, to the race, you have the Cosmic and the OTK and the Bridgestone and the Vortex, and every semi trucks are there. It's pretty amazing.
Overall, were you happy with? Well, not so much were you happy, because obviously you want guys to go over and just enjoy themselves, the guys that won your tickets. But it's give me your thoughts on Team USA's performances this year, because they've done so well in the past.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Kai Sorensen, who's obviously, you can make a case for that kid being the best cadet driver in the country right now, right? He's won everything. I mean, he was on the pole and was up front all weekend and had a mishap that kind of pushed him back a little bit in the final, but that's racing. Derek Wang, one of the best Masters drivers we have, and a guy who's checking off the boxes at every World Finals type event he can. I think he's been all three engine brands now. He's been at least one of them. So Derek was in the mix all weekend. I think he was just outside the top 5 with 6, and there were guys in the mix in shifter, and there were guys in the mix in senior and junior. Connor Zillich was close. So, I mean, there's the thing is, I remember in the past. And obviously, the ROC program has been around a little while, but we really haven't been a part of it, right? There's been a few guys that have gone over there, but really it's been the last 2 or 3 years where we're really sending a Team USA kind of team. And I remember the first few years of Rotax when our guys never even made the final. Like, we couldn't even make the final. And it took us a long time to prove the competitiveness of our fields. And we're there with ROC. When I see kids from America that can put it on the pole, and guys can win heat races, and guys can be on the podium or be right there, that means our ROC program in the U.S., whether it be Challenge of the Americas or Rock the Rio or the Winter Tour, etc., our programs are competitive enough where our guys can go over there and be in the mix. That says a lot about the ROC program here more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree with you. The level of competition is what it is. Now, of course, you do the super final, you come back, essentially jumping right into the Rock the Rio event. This is a race that has obviously grown. Solid numbers this year, over 300. You're getting over that 300 mark. Strong numbers in the shifter kart categories as well. Massive shifter kart classes, and for all the feedback we got, of course, David was there as well covering the race. Though it was just a fantastic atmosphere. Overall, just a major step up for ROC overall when it comes to the American side of the sport. Oh,
for sure. I mean, it's that event had 50%. You're talking about my growth being 20 or 30%. They had 50% growth for that event. 18 to 19. The biggest thing I take away from that is so many times in our sport, you create something and it simply takes away from something else. You're just reallocating resources. And I look at that event and it did not impact the other event that happened a couple weeks later, right? There were 300 unique entries that did not take away from anything that happened in that same venue a couple weeks later. So that actually created 300 more drivers. Whether some of the names are the same, that's not to be said, but 300 more drivers, 300 more people supporting teams, spending money in our sport, buying engines, buying tires, buying go-karts, right? So it actually created something instead of just moving entries back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually a key point that I think not a lot of people bring up, but the fact that just simply whatever the amount of money is spent by customers, by racers, that goes into the industry, that's the positive in the end, right?
Yeah.
If you stand back and look overall, like you said, there was just a lot of money that went, whether it's tuning, whether it's buying helmets, rain suits, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? It's more money going into the sport. I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, it adds value to our sport. It allows teams to reinvest and become better at what they do. It allows series to reinvest and become better at what they do. So it's positive all the way around.
What was your thought on the racing? I know David thought it was solid down there. He liked the track layout. He thought that there was obviously a lot of aggression at time, but I think aggression also points to the fact that people want to win that race. They want to have that Rock the Rio race win on the resume. But what were your thoughts on the overall racecraft and the competition itself?
It was typical for a parking lot barrier race, right? I mean,
yeah.
Obviously the officials have a lot of difficult jobs to do. And they do them the best that they can. I mean, there was a Masters heat race or two that got maybe a little bit out of hand, which is odd because normally Masters are the polite ones, but that certainly wasn't the case this year. But like you said, when the stakes are high, when people really want to win, they'll take chances and drive away maybe they wouldn't normally and see what they can get away with. So I wouldn't say it was any better or any worse than any of the other million races, temp circuits that we've been. I think Garrett and his staff did a better job with the track ingress and egress, which allowed. And I know you talked about it with David Cole. Shaved some time off the schedule.
Always does. Yep.
I mean, so that was a big positive. I mean, Tech was right there. You certainly have the the awards presentation right after the event, which, 50% of the people are going to like, 50% of the people aren't going to like it. You and I have gone in circles about this, right? Oh, well, you got to wait till tech clears, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So when the excitement wears off in an hour and a half, we can all give out trophies, right? So it's a 50-50 deal. But overall, the event was great. The atmosphere was great. People had a good time. Except for the crazy, police chase that went right through the middle of the paddock on one of the days. I'm sure you heard about that.
I heard about that. That's odd.
Well, some guy stole some $100,000 car that was supposed to be on display on SEMA. Some car that had 1,000 horsepower or something. He stole it and was running from the cops, and somehow they found him hiding in the Rio parking structure, and he just came blasting through. And let's be honest, we have fences around these venues, but it's a $10 an hour security guard watching the fence. Some dude in a 4,000 pound, 1,000 horsepower car comes barreling at me at 60. I'm letting him in the gate too. And he literally went right through the paddock. And luckily it was a lunch break. But he went right through the middle of the paddock, didn't hurt anybody, and then 3 cop cars came right after him. It was crazy.
Okay, that's not something I knew. I heard that it happened of it, but it's not something I'd ever heard in my 25 years. I've never heard of something like that.
No. It's ridiculous, right? But it added to the spice. It was like, oh, well, check that off the box because I don't have to see that ever again.
There it is. All right, folks, stay with us. We got one more break in the action here. We're going to come back and really get into the meat of the 2020 season. We got Andy Seesemann from the FTK Promotions crew. Challenging the Americas, his primary program. Of course, they've got the California Rock Cup Championship. When we get back, though, we're going to talk about the 2020 Challenge of the Americas. We're less than 2 months away from getting this program rolling again for what will be their 13th season. Stay with us. More to come here on the Industry Insider on the EKN Radio Network. The 2019 season marks the 20th anniversary for PSL Karting, North America's importer and distributor for the legendary Burrell Art brand. PSL Karting is your complete source for all things Burrell Art, providing this top quality product both through their expansive dealer network or through their own PSLkarting.com online store. We have over 100 Burrell Art carts in stock at all times. We can provide you with a turnkey package with an IAMI, Rotax, Rock, or Briggs power plant, complete and ready to race. Whatever you need is available 24/7 at our online store, including parts and components, consumables like AMSOIL, Motul, and Rotax XPS engine oil, and Vroom lubricants, Micron data acquisition systems, and Unipro, and of course driver safety gear from Bell, Arai, Freem, and Alpine Stars. Trackside, we're also the karting distributor for Bell Racing USA. Arrive and Drive programs, supported by PSL's experienced staff and our in-house engine program, are available for all major U.S. and Canadian events. When you're ready to win, call PSL Karting or visit one of our dealers. And as always, head to pslkarting.com. "2019 was a great year, no question. But the off-season is here, and I know that your mind is already thinking about next season. We all want to get better and improve our skills and our racecraft. And maybe you're tired of missing the podium or even the championship. So what do? Here's what I think. Take a breather from throwing money at the newest speed secret and a new chassis you don't quite need yet. Invest in yourself. Take yourself to the next level as a driver. If you want to improve your results, do what every athlete does, regardless of the sport. Get professional coaching. And in karting, there's only one choice: the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park in Houston. Alan Rudolph is a legend in our sport, and he's been a coach for over 15 years. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy offers custom coaching programs for newcomers and experienced racers alike. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Get ready for 2020 by calling 866-607-7223 or head to speedsportsracingpark.com to learn more. The 2019 season is rapidly coming to a close, and it's time to start thinking about 2020. Get out your calendar and mark off the dates for the fastest growing Rock Cup program in the U.S., the Challenge of the Americas. It's our 13th season and year 3 of our rock focus, and 2020 will be the biggest yet. As always, the Challenge features 3 race weekends at 3 of the finest tracks in the West: the Musselman Honda Circuit in Tucson, Cal Speed Karting in Fontana, and Sonoma in NorCal Wine Country. Our classes include Micro, Mini, Junior, Senior, and Masters Rock, our multi-manufacturer 100cc Junior, Senior, and Masters level, and our well-supported Rock Shifter and Rock Shifter Masters program. We're by far the largest shifter program in the West, with 56 unique competitors and an average of 32 shifter drivers in just 2 categories this past winter. While other West Coast programs are shrinking, the Challenge of the Americas and Rock are growing. With over 125 entries at last year's opener, 150 plus is certainly a possibility for 2020. So make sure you're part of the fun. Prizes include tickets to the massive Rock Cup Super Final and the Rock the Rio event in Las Vegas. The Challenge opener is less than 4 months away, so head to our website at challengekarting.com, pull out that calendar, and lock in the dates. We'll see you in Tucson. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 28 of the Industry Insider. I'm Rob Howden, joined today by Andy Seesemann from FTK Promotions, of course, the promoter of the Challenge of the Americas, the Winter Series program of the West Coast. Andy, let's jump in. I'll set the bar for the 2020 COTA preview. I'm just going to roll the schedule out a little bit here, then we can start talking. January 24, 25, 26, kicking things off at Tucson, Arizona, one of the coolest badass tracks on the West Coast. Musselman Honda Circuit is the official name. Move over to the next month, February 21 to 23, back to Cal Speed Karting Center in Fontana, California. And then moving back into March this year, March 27 to 29, up at Sim Raceway Performance Karting Center for the finale at Sonoma. A great schedule, 3 tremendous racetracks, obviously a lot of support in all those areas. Are you happy with the schedule? Do you like the way things have laid out? Any news you need to drop in? Anything going on?
No real news. I mean, it's always a challenge with our schedule. I mean,
yep.
Like we know we have 2 different major programs in the U.S. And then 2 different coasts going on at this time of year, right? So you try to logistically make it as easy for guys that want to do both can do both. Obviously that a very small percentage can, but we always try to make it so nothing conflicts. A lot of our programs share a little bit of staff, right? Guys that we use on the East Coast and guys that we use on the West Coast and vice versa. So, you certainly plugging all these races in is a challenge. And we'll talk about that later with the CRC program. It's an equal challenge. But it's pretty simple. We have 3 weekends, we have 3 months, and we need to find a way to make them all fit. So, there it is.
there's only so many tracks to go to. I think that are I would call national level tracks, right? Because you essentially have to have a national level track for your program. You're giving out tickets to the Rock Cup Super Final. This is a major program, so you've got to go to a track that will challenge these guys, and that it will be a track that it's going to attract them to come to. Tucson, Fontana, Sonoma, 3 really solid facilities.
No, and you said it right. You not only track, it's facility, it's everything else. And what a lot of folks don't realize is those of us that call ourselves promoters, the challenges we deal with aren't simply the track, it's everything else. Especially when you talk about a fly-in program to some respect, like Challenge is. While Buttonwillow is a great track, it's 2.5 hours from any airport. There's a Best Western and a Motel 6, right? So
that's it. Yeah.
So we have to go to places. There's really only 4 tracks that I can go to on the West Coast, the ones that I've been, consistently, right? Whether it be Musselman or PKRA in Phoenix, Cal Speed or Sonoma. Those are the 4, right? You have to have an airport within a half hour, 45 minutes. You have to have restaurants and hotels. Oh, by the way, and you have to have a badass racetrack too. So and facilities, right? And grid and a spot for tech and a PA system. I mean, it's hard. Being in the track business is tough in our sport, right? I mean, there are very few Cal speeds that try to make a living Monday through Friday and other weekends with their other race programs where they can afford to have us racers actually show up a couple times a month, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. So hey, let's question there. So as you talk about host hotels and having nice hotels, I got notes on that we took up for this podcast. New host hotel for Tucson.
Yeah, we've always loved that our old host hotel, the Sheraton 4 Points, with the world's worst bartender, but
that's solid. That's solid right there.
But we work hard for our customers to make sure they get good value, and they came at a rate that was just far too high this year. So there's been other properties that tried to get our business, and we signed a deal with the Hyatt Place, which is a great property, and I think the rate's like $92 or something with breakfast. So I mean, I couldn't pass that up. When I looked at the Sheraton, it was like 30% higher. Like, you just can't 30%. I mean, that's half a set of tires, right? A set of tires for some people if they're buying a couple rooms. So, and it's where it is. It's literally across the street and 100 feet down. So it's not like it's further. It's right there on the main drag. Cal Speed, I'll work on a hotel. I don't really do many hotels for Cal Speed simply because there's so many right there around the airport and convention center, and then we go up to Sonoma and we go to our Novato Oaks Inn, Best Western, that we've been at for years and years and years. So.
Love it. Now, one of the things about the finale up at Sonoma is, and we'll talk about this a little bit, it's also going to be kind of part of the California Rock Cup Challenge. That race, that finale is also going to be the first race of the opening round of the Rock Sonoma Series, which is the club event at Sonoma which is Rock, which has had great numbers. You guys are combining for that finale. That's going to be a big weekend.
Yeah, no. So there was one misstatement that finale won't be part of the CRC. It won't be California Rock Challenge, but it will be Rock Sonoma. Absolutely.
Okay. That's my fault.
That's okay. I'll blame you for more stuff from now on. That's not a big deal. So Steve Cameron and I, exactly, thick skin, big shoulders.
That's it.
You're like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I've been 25 years in this sport. I got to have that.
No doubt. You and me both, brother. But Steve Cameron and I up there have been talking for a long time about trying to make some of these combined events work, and really this was the year to do it. Try something new. Certainly they have a strong program up there, and obviously, the third race in any three-race series fades off a little bit. So it will benefit both of us to have his kickoff be my race. All that's going to happen is we're going to run it, and his folks will get points towards his championship towards it, and he'll just take over after, right? So it should impact them. They're going to get a double weekend out of it. So his local people, after being off, I mean, his final event this year, I'm looking at the calendar, was October 19th. So they're off 5 months, right? And they'll get to kick it off with the Challenge of the Americas race at their home track, where they're going to have an advantage over anybody who flies in, obviously. So realistically, that event with his addition could absolutely hit 150. So I think that my strategy in the West is trying to develop some of these partnerships that will help us grow together. I know some other strategies are to have control of everything and do everything themselves. And my goal is to build these partnerships and empower people to kind of build the program together. So yeah, our challenge finale will be the opener of Rock Sonoma.
So we're doing the preview. We talked a little bit about it earlier, actually, when we were doing the review of 2019. I asked about new teams or new drivers, and your focus was more on the fact that the existing core teams have been able to gain more momentum in their areas to bring more guys to the event, which is great. And when we're talking about 10% growth, we're talking about a dozen more drivers to take you to 125 up to 137, 140. It doesn't take much to hit that big 150 mark when you get 2 or 3 or 4 more drivers at all your teams, which I think is obviously key to that slow, steady, controlled growth that I've been preaching for 20 years. Looking at the program this year, we talked about the fact that you've got some new guys coming in, which is fantastic. What about the staff? Because one of the constants about the Challenge of the Americas has been that attitude, has been that culture, that atmosphere that people They come into the race, and while the stuff on track is super aggressive and like super competitive racing, and it's always the racing is always so solid. You've got that steady, that constant, which is the staff of people you bring who do such a tremendous job. Everything the same for this year?
Yes, and I appreciate the kind words about my staff. I am blessed, very, very blessed to have some very long-term folks with me, and God bless them. I don't know how they do it. They just keep coming back because it's not the pay. We all know that, right? I mean, and that's the hard part about this sport, right? I mean, we go to any race around the country, and people are there making a fraction of what they make in their normal day jobs, but they do it for the love of the sport, and they get shit on, for lack of a better word, by a lot of people. And I hope people realize that how much sacrifice these folks do for the love of the sport.
That's a good point.
And I'm blessed that I have people that are still that still love me enough to keep coming out. I always tease our race director Taylor. I said, the hardest part about finding a race director is you got to find somebody dumb enough to do the job and then convince him he's smart once he puts your T-shirt on.
Yes. I like that. I like that a lot.
It's the truth, right? There's no worse job at the racetrack, right? But yes, my staff is absolutely much the same. We're making an addition this year.
Okay.
We've all been to so many races around the country, and none of our staffs are really getting any younger, right? They're all aging for sure. So we're adding another assistant race director this year. We're bringing Tyler Brooks, otherwise known as Tyrell Brook, out of retirement. He retired from racing a few years ago and got married, and he's putting his life together now. He wants to get back involved, so he's going to step to the other side of the fence. He's been a club race director, assistant race director, on and off for the past couple of years. So we're going to push him into that role for challenge, which allows me to take Mark Michione, who was Taylor's assistant, and kind of put him more in a steward's role. We don't, we can't afford all the video marshaling and everything, but to have somebody that can operate as a steward and kind of, officiate by handing out the penalties, and at least giving somebody a point of contact if they want to argue that penalty respectfully, or certainly make a protest or whatever. To be able to have somebody dedicated to that job adds one more good layer of officiating in my program. So I'm excited for that.
And Mark, with that, all the knowledge, all the experience he has, but still with that calming voice. You know what I mean? I believe it takes that personality to be in that steward position. And Mark's just one of those guys who's such a calming voice when everybody's, when you're being approached.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Mark it's crazy because he wasn't the calmest of junior dads, and neither was Taylor Jocelyn.
Are any of them?
No, exactly. But when they started working on that side of the fence, they got so calm because I think they identified with what that other person is feeling. So they do a great job for me. I'm just blessed, for sure. And then on the tech side, I still have our two national tech directors, Dave Davies and Robert Yardley. I mean, they do all the rock events all around the country. So between tech and the race direction staff, I'm set. I mean, and then I got the one person that runs the whole thing, so I don't have to do anything. That's Shelby Jocelyn. So I'm good.
Yeah, this is the single best timing and scoring person in the sport. I think Dave and I will say that. She's just so calm up there as well. Just handles everything. I'm thrilled that I'll be able to be there for all three races last year. You mentioned conflicts earlier, and we had a couple conflicts last year that kind of messed me up coming to the event, which kind of pissed me off. But this year dialed in a lot better. And that's, one of the things, you just said it right there. And I think one of the keys to your program, and it's very quiet in the back, and it allows you to be more part of your full throttle karting team, which still has a number of drivers of the event, is the fact that once you unlock the door and start the event, you hand it off to your crew. You're not making any calls. I hire people for that, and you hand it off. And I think that's always been one of the keys for you to be able to continue the culture and atmosphere that you want, because you don't have to get in the middle of the bullshit. You're able to stand back and say, I hired guys. Go yell at them. I'm over here.
Yeah, and to be honest, I spend very little time with the full throttle karting side either. I mean, that's always been Eric's responsibility. Before that, it was Josh Huff, and before that, it was Eric again, right? So, I've always had a guy that everybody knows once the event starts that FTK trailer is theirs. Don't talk to me about that either. Really, I'm lazy. I don't want to do anything, so I just hire enough people to do all the jobs where I can just stand around and look pretty.
That's it. Well, you do one of them correctly. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Standing around. Let's all right. Let's have a quick look at the There's not much you can say. I know you have not yet released the schedule for the California Rock Championship. I believe there was one press release that came out, and this is where I kind of confused myself probably a bit. But the one date that I believe you do have locked in is that September 12th, 13th date, where the Rock Cup California, the California Rock Championship is running with Rock Sonoma. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And we're working on another date as well. Like I mentioned, these partnerships are what's going to allow the rock program to grow. Yeah. Is finding good solid partners that have a similar mindset that we can partner with and move the program forward in the West. And I've been working on a couple different options, and we're going to be able to dig 3 or 4 dates out here, and we're almost done. We're almost done. I just don't have a contract or 2 signed, so I can't really say anything. But the hardest part anywhere, but for sure in the West is scheduling. I mean, you look at the calendar, and there's not a free weekend. Basically from Super Bowl Sunday to Thanksgiving, right? So there's always going to be a conflict or two. You just have to try to minimize it the best you can. Figure out who your core customers are, and not go on top of where they're going to also be. And go from there. So yes, the CRC finale for sure locked in is the September 12th, 13 Rock Sonoma race, and that will simply be Rock Sonoma runs the event, and we will supply the tires like we always do to them, like we do to the West Coast as the distributor. But we'll be there with part support and everything else, and we'll just hand out some awards at the end, and we'll just keep the points. That's really what this partnership means to me. And like I said, we're trying to dig one more date out in their calendar, and then put another event or two sometime between, say, May 1 and August, right? So we're almost there. We're close, but I can't say anything until it's locked in.
Well, and that's the key, right? If you look at it, we talk about this, the pyramid all the time. Sim Raceway is a rock club, and the Rock Sonoma is essentially a club series runs there. You want to have your regional series, and you want to have your national series. Now, in the rock program, there's a couple of rock races, not so much a national series, but there's lots of events you can do. There's both winter series, East Coast and West Coast as well. All right, Eddie, let's wrap things up here. I want to give you a chance to talk about full throttle karting as well. As you said, when you're at the track, even though it's your program, you let Eric run it. He's the guy. Eric Thompson has the thing handled. You guys have been making some moves. One of the things that dropped, obviously, in the second half of the season was the fact that you guys have become a dealer for the GFC brand. How's that going to roll out for this year's challenge?
It's adding a line, and I've been a Brell art dealer now since I started FTK in my garage in 2002 in October, wow. Right? So, man. Yeah. 17 years affiliated with Big Red, and I'm certainly not leaving them. Ronnie Saul and I are good friends. We've shared many a meal together over the years and conversations and business. But for sure, I mean, Gary Carlton is a icon in American karting. One of the few that can honestly say I was a professional go-kart driver as an American. Yep. Right. He actually went over there and lived in the factory and breathed it and got paid to do it. Maybe probably wasn't the greatest wage in the world, but he certainly earned his living as a go-kart racing driver. Right. Yep. So all these everybody calls themselves a pro because they get a half a set of tires and a sprocket. No, Gary's the guy who actually did it. Right. Along with a few others. But so when Gary decided to start his brand, I was certainly intrigued and I'm glad to help him out. I mean, as a dealer, FTK, I do a lot of different things. Obviously, we talk more about the challenge in the CRC than FTK, the shop. And that's really where the business for me is transitioning. I mean, the shop keeps me attached to the technical side. It keeps me attached to the racing, to the competition side as not an organizer at other events. So yep. While I don't think I'm going to sell 50 GFCs a year, I certainly can help promote the brand a little bit for Gary. He has a solid reputation. He works absolutely as hard or harder than anybody I've ever met. He's very passionate about the sport. He's very passionate about his brand, and I'm happy to represent it.
Yeah, I think that's, and for him, the win-win would obviously be that's that Southern California outpost where there's going to be parts, there's going to be chassis. Your trackside at so many events, so no, there's no doubt. I just thought it was a kind of a cool deal, but yeah, you're 17 years with the Burrell brand, Burrell art is absolutely impressive. You've been doing it for quite a while, but it's great stuff. So, all right, let's wrap this thing up. Let's cap off episode 28 of the Industry Insider. Any last words, or are you just ready to flick the switch, open registration, and start the countdown to Tucson?
No. This is the big last word. So the big last word is the big new development, and which I didn't tell you about. So this is going to catch you by surprise.
Hold on.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Just grab a Twinkie and a glass of port. You good?
No, just a port, no Twinkie.
Rock Cup USA / OTK USA and I just finalized our agreement where I will be the Rock parts and engine distributor for the West Coast as well. So,
very nice.
we started out with the tire 2 years ago, the Bridgestone YLR tire, and I've been to the distributor for, basically Colorado West, for the tire, which has been great. It certainly helped out the dealers in the series like Rock Sonoma, etc., to help support them, to have the tires closer and cheaper with shipping. That's the bottom line, right? I mean, That's why other brands have two warehouses, and we much need to do the same thing. And in the beginning, we had to kind of grow the program and move it, and now we both decided that it's time to have parts and engines on the West Coast. So FTK is now the West Coast distributor for all Rock engines and parts. So that will definitely be a game changer. That will help our dealers out on the West Coast. One, who support the program, two, because they'll be parts and engines close and cheaper to ship, etc. If they need a piston in a day, they can get it without having to ship it from Florida. And two, it'll also help dealers that are thinking about getting into the Rock program, because now all of a sudden they don't have to worry about maybe stocking so much that they have to get from 3,000 miles away. So it was definitely a thing we've been working on the past couple months, and we finally got it done, and I'm excited. It'll probably take 4, 5, 6 weeks to get everything in the pipeline. I mean, it's hard to get a few $100,000 worth of product just here to there in a blink of an eye. But certainly by the time the year moves to 2020, and by the time we get to Tucson, we will have a full supply of all the parts and engines to support the West Coast dealers and customers.
Well, congratulations, dude. That's solid stuff. That's a little breaking news here on this edition of the Industry Insider. Very cool. And you know what? A solid, strong, strategic move, obviously, to take care of the industry, to make sure you have those parts nice and close. I like that. I like capping things off with some news. That's awesome, bud. Well done. All right, folks, we are finished. Andy Seesemann, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Rob. We appreciate all that you do for our sport. And the support you give us, we couldn't do without you.
Yeah, looking forward to Tucson. I'm, again, really excited that I'll be able to attend and be able to call all 3 races in 2020. Folks, there he is.
Are you bringing your grill? Somebody said you were bringing your grill.
Well, listen, we've talked about that. I'm not going to bring one. I'm going to have to buy one and leave it in your trailer so we can do smash burgers on Friday. Friday practice smash burgers.
Friday practice.
That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
That sounds amazing.
That sounds pretty good. There you go.
Figure out how do we do.
You got to be one of the drivers for FTK, because I'm not feeding the entire paddock.
What? Come on.
Oh, trust me, dude. We did 150 burgers, me and Cole, at the Cup Carts North America race for my first ever burger smash, and that was 2 hours. And although we smelled fantastic the next morning, everything smelled like hamburgers, which was great.
Oh, I bet it did. Yeah, no, I'm sure. I think Cole has cologne that smells like hamburger.
Yep. He probably does. All right, folks, we're done. Andy Seesemann, thank you so much. The promoter of the Challenge of the Americas and the California Rock Championship. Lots of great stuff happening for 2020 with that program. And again, we thank Andy for joining us here on the EKN Radio Network. I'm Rob Howden. Bye for now.